Tonight, a hidden revenge revealed, the Mafia boss's transformation shocking her forever. Maria Rossi stared at the classroom packed with young, eager faces, her heart thrumming a rapid beat that felt painfully foreign. A fierce Mafia boss, she'd navigated the treacherous waters of Hoboken's underbelly, commanding respect through intimidation. Yet here, in this academic setting, vulnerability draped over her like a heavy cloak. She had traded smoky backrooms for lecture halls, the cold steel of her past now clashing with the unwieldy warmth of pursuit. The very air around her buzzed with aspirations she had long since buried. Ironically, these walls felt more confining than her family's lascivious lair. Behind her hardened exterior lay the echoes of suppressed dreams. A degree in criminal justice once beckoned to her like a star over an endless sea, but loyalty to her family's empire had silenced that spark. Surrounded by students who thrived on discussions of ethics and justice, Maria couldn't shake the dread pooling in her stomach. Power equated to respect, which came only from unwavering loyalty. Now, radical questions rattled within her. What if she could redefine that loyalty? As her peers debated the moral gray zones of law, unease churned deep in her throat. What if knowledge could bring a weapon more potent than the blustering threats she'd wielded her whole life? With a rival gang encroaching upon her territory, the urgency of sharpening her mind grew palpable. That sudden twinge of desire for acknowledgement, recognition, did it make her weak? She exhaled slowly, feeling as if she were stealing moments of freedom she wasn't entitled to. Before she could confront those thoughts, a text buzzed through her anxiety, extraordinary in its simplicity. "You won't believe what I found about Dad." Maria's heart stuttered. Their father, imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit, a tale that had woven through her childhood like a relentless specter, now threatened her very foundation. The familial loyalty she held so dear began to crack under the weight of this revelation. She thought of her father's weary eyes and silent suffering. Was she truly digging into the past to right the wrongs, or crafting a betrayal? Her worries escalated into agonizing knots. As Maria excelled in her classes, her mentor, Dr. Elena Myers, guided her down paths of research that required meticulous navigation of legal corruption. Each fragment of truth she uncovered tugged at her soul. Was she following an honor-driven path or opening a Pandora's box that could doom her family? A professor's belief in her flourished a flicker of hope amidst the wrapping mists of anguish. Still, each night her mind raced with the contradictions of her identity. The Mafia boss, the daughter, the student, a discord she didn't know how to reconcile. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The phone vibrated again, this time more frantically. "They know, Maria," Angelo's voice cracked, panic radiating through the line. "It's about Dad. We need to talk." The haze of uncertainty thickened as revelation seized her, the walls of her old life closing in fast. Her choices now harbored potential threats that could splinter her family's already fractured legacy. The enormity of her battle felt insurmountable as she stood on the razor's edge between devotion and the promise of truth. Could she face a legacy rooted in blood and deceit? As she breathed, wide-eyed with realization, dread intertwined with an unspoken yearning. Would she choose revenge or emancipation, knowing betrayal loomed? The room spun, and she knew one thing for certain. She was no longer merely a boss. Time to make a choice that could shatter everything she held dear. The weight of Angelo's words hung heavy in the air, punctuating Maria's turmoil. Should she heed the warning or confront the shadows of her past? Each pulse of her heart sent a ripple of doubt through her body. She felt like an actor in a play, rehearsing her lines but unsure of the climax. Her family's reputation had been built on deception, but which side of the truth was she on? With each passing moment, Maria's resolve wavered. She recalled her father's lessons in honor and loyalty, memories woven into the fabric of her psyche. But loyalty to whom? To a man unjustly imprisoned, or to a lineage steeped in violence? Her stomach churned as she prepared to act, torn between the firm grasp of her lineage and the simmering fervor for justice ignited by newfound knowledge. Desire pulled her toward Dr. Elena's office. She craved guidance, a lifeline in the ocean of moral uncertainty. The moment she stepped into the soft light of the academic space, relief washed over her. Elena sat surrounded by stacks of books, her insightful gaze meeting Maria's with concern. "What's wrong, Maria?" she asked, detecting the storm behind her composure. Angelo said, "Something about Dad," Maria responded, struggling to find her footing in the conversation. "What if everything we thought was true is a lie?" Elena's expression shifted to one of quiet understanding. Complexity often bleeds into our family narratives. Hidden truths can resurface in unexpected ways. You have the power to seek information, to wield it, but tread carefully. Your choices shape not just your future, but your family's too. The weight of her mentor's words flooded Maria with determination. She realized that uncovering the truth behind her father's incarceration was not just an act of vengeance. It was a pathway to redefine the legacy she carried. Knowledge could be her weapon, an enigmatic shield layered deeper than any bulletproof vest she had known. "Can you help me find the real story?" Maria asked, her voice stronger, heavier with purpose. "Absolutely," Elena replied, a spark igniting in her eyes. "But we need to ask the right questions. Start putting together a narrative that captures everything. The events leading to your father's arrest, any players involved, inconsistencies in witness statements." As they delved into research, Maria felt a burgeoning confidence. Each document reviewed, every insight gleaned, transformed her from the suffering daughter to an active seeker of truth. She uncovered threads woven tightly through the fabric of her family history, connections to law enforcement, obscure testimonies, and motives buried beneath layers of familial pride. Yet as she became increasingly engaged with the past, she struggled with the ghosts that resurfaced. Questions loomed. Could her push for revelation lead to a fracture in an already fragile bond? Was she willing to risk family ties for justice? Just as she began feeling empowered, another text came through, this one from an unknown number. "The past will come for you, Maria. Be ready." A chill crept up her spine, a warning that echoed her internal fears. Was she prepared to face what lay buried in the dark? The clash between her past and her emerging identity was no longer just personal. It threatened to spiral into chaos in her life and those she loved. Determined, Maria clenched her fists. This was a turning point. She could manipulate the boundaries of her legacy. The time had come to not just uncover the truth, but to confront the depths of what it meant to be Maria Rossi, a dichotomy of mafia boss and relentless dreamer. Her fate loomed ahead, and with decision came a burning question. How far was she willing to travel into the shadows to reclaim not only her father's name, but also her own? As exasperation danced on the cusp of her consciousness, Maria's mind was consumed by the weight of her findings. Despite her growing confidence, each new revelation about her family's past was like a piece of jagged glass, slicing open insights she'd rather keep concealed. The unknown sender loomed larger in her thoughts, a specter hinting at dangers that lay in wait. "I need to face this," she whispered to herself, her reflection staring back in the dim light of her apartment. Clenching her jaw, she felt a surge of identity reshaping her from the inside out. The girl who once cowered behind her family's facade had awakened into a fierce woman ready to dismantle lies, to renegotiate the terms of her inheritance. With resolve coursing through her veins, Maria grabbed her laptop and settled at the small oak table that had been a silent witness to her childhood dreams. She began cataloging every insight she had gathered, drawing connections like a detective weaving the threads of a complex case. The screen illuminated her face in a ghostly glow, but she welcomed it. The light served as a tool for clarity in the fog of her doubts. Over the next few hours, Maria pieced together timelines, juxtaposing witness accounts with records of police reports. A missing piece nagged at her instincts. Why had her father's conviction been so swift? The locals whispered blood-bought justice, but she needed proof. With each investigation, she unearthed what felt like a tangled web of orchestrated deceit, every strand pulling her deeper into murky waters. Elena's voice echoed in her mind, urging her to tread carefully, yet daring. Maria understood that she was standing at the precipice of something monumental. Her father's legacy hung by a thread, and in her hands lay the potential to either reinforce the facade or dismantle it entirely. She had a chance to redefine who she was, to not merely be Maria Rossi, results of her father's choices, but Maria Rossi, a formidable force for change. A sudden thought gripped her. If there were indeed conspirators in her father's demise, they would not take kindly to an inquiry. The uncertainty ignited a fire within, voltages of determination zapping her into action. She would need allies. She needed to find those willing to challenge the status quo, uncover the truth alongside her. Before she could organize her thoughts, the insistent ping of her phone startled her from her focus. Another message from the unknown number buzzed loudly. "Digging too deep could bury you, Maria. Don't say I didn't warn you." The threat cut through her rising adrenaline, and in that moment she hesitated. The weight of the message was chilling. This was no longer solely about her father. It was about her own safety. Shadows lurked in places she'd previously gazed upon with naive innocence. The thought of her loved ones being woven into this dark narrative made bile rise in her throat. She could retreat, play the role of the dutiful daughter, or plunge recklessly into the abyss. The former felt like surrender, while the latter promised discovery, though at what cost? Maria pressed her palms flat against her laptop, battling with the urge to seek refuge rather than confrontation. Each second stretched longer than the last, amplifying her uncertainty. With an exhale that seemed to echo in the silence of her room, Maria grasped an inkling of her own strength. Familiarity with fear should not dictate her next move. Resolutely, she tapped out a response to the anonymous text, feeling the weight of her defiance blossom inside her. "I'm not afraid. I will find the truth, no matter the cost." As she stepped away from the table, determination hardened her resolve. What she was stepping into would challenge every aspect of who she thought she was. But there was a tantalizing thrill in bringing the unseen to light, a thrill greater than the paralyzing grip of fear. Unbeknownst to Maria, an amorphous threat lurked beyond her current scope, waiting for the precise moment to strike. What she didn't know could cost her dearly, and as she braced for an uncertain journey, the question rang clear. Was she truly ready to confront the darkness that awaited her, or would it consume her before she could reclaim her legacy? Maria stood in her living room, the dim light flickering as shadows danced across the walls, reflecting the tempest brewing inside her. Each heartbeat intensified her resolve. She was no longer just a daughter grappling with her family's tarnished past. She was an investigator, an architect of her own narrative. The unknown sender's messages gnawed at her, but now they were shadows she would illuminate rather than fears to quiet. She needed a plan, a strategy infused with precision and daring. The clock ticked ferociously, counting down the moments of potential danger. With the laptop glowing in front of her, Maria opened a new document, voicing her intentions clearly. Research potential allies who share a determination to expose the truth and dismantle corruption, she typed. It felt empowering to articulate her goal, to summon others into her quest. But a wave of anxiety washed over her. Would they even trust her? Would she be capable of convincing them to join her crusade? As the night deepened, so did her resolve. One name troubled her thoughts: Elena. Her best friend had connections in the community, along with an understanding of the delicate power dynamics at play. Maria's fingers hesitated above the keyboard. Seeking Elena would imply a level of vulnerability she had yet to fully embrace. "Stay strong," she muttered to herself. The reflection of her own determination reminded her that this was about more than fear. It was about reclaiming her identity. Drawing a deep breath, Maria picked up her phone and sent a message to Elena. "Can we meet? I need your help. It's about my dad." The response was swift, a simple acknowledgement, but it fueled Maria's urgency. She could sense change coursing through her. This was her moment. To involve others, to shift from solo investigator to team player. As she prepared for her impending meeting, she turned her thoughts back to the investigation. The pieces of her father's conviction rattled like loose coins in her determined mind. Missing evidence, eyewitness discrepancies, and hurried police work. Why had no one questioned these anomalies? Understanding that knowledge was power, Maria realized she needed to scrutinize her past without sentimentality. That meant more than just diving into dusty records. It involved braving painful memories and questioning her emotional ties. The thought of confronting her family's secrets, digging deeper into her father's legacy, sent disconcerting tremors through her. But she had no time for doubt. Not now. Not when she had decided to confront the enemies hidden within the community. The following morning, daylight trickled through her curtains, illuminating the scattered notes around her table. With fresh coffee brewing, Maria flipped through the pages of her father's old case file. Familiar names jumped out, belonging to figures that inhabited her childhood memories and reminiscence, coloring her life in shades of nostalgia. The realization that these familiar faces might have been involved in orchestrating her father's downfall summoned a whirlwind of frustration. Rising from her chair, Maria felt the anger bubble over. This was personal now. Where would her allegiance lie? With a legacy shrouded in dishonor, or with a pursuit to unveil a truth that had been hidden for too long? Every ounce of her being screamed to move forward, but doubt knotted her stomach. She needed Elena's grounded perspective. She had always offered clarity in moments of chaos. After pacing the room, Maria finally donned a jacket, clenching the edges as if it would shield her from the past's weight. Elena met her in their usual cafe, a cozy nook that buzzed with laughter and aromas of freshly baked pastries. As she glanced at her friend, sitting with a book, Maria felt the swell of friendship and unspoken support. They were intertwined in a way that felt fortifying, yet fear rippled through her. As they exchanged pleasantries, Maria sensed a shift. The air hung heavy with the expectation of the weighty conversation to come. Suddenly, the ache of the unknown loomed, breathless. Would they be able to navigate the treacherous waters of her father's past together? Would Elena stand by her as they confronted the darkness lurking in plain sight? Just as the thrill of sharing her truth began to ignite in her, Maria's phone buzzed with a new message. "You're playing with fire, Maria. Be careful." The ominous reminder sent a jolt through her, feeding the growing apprehension that brushed against her emerging courage. Whatever lay ahead, one thing was clear: this was only the beginning of her fight. As Maria faced the unwavering gaze of her friend, she silently prepared to unveil the core of her struggle. The moment to share her truth and challenge everything she thought she knew was upon her. Would she find the ally she desperately needed, or would the weight of the unknown extinguish her burgeoning flame? The answer lingered in the air, as unsettling as it was electrifying. Maria inhaled deeply, her gaze locked onto Elena's expectant expression, and felt her pulse quicken. The cafe's cheerful ambiance faded into a dull roar, drowning out the laughter and chatter of patrons around them. This was it, the moment her fears collided with her resolve. "I asked you to meet because I need your help," Maria started, her voice steadier than she felt. "It's about my dad, his conviction. It was wrong. I need to find out the truth." Elena's brow furrowed, silent for a moment as she processed Maria's words. "Maria, that's a big claim. Are you sure? You could be digging into something dangerous." "I know the risks," Maria's heart raced, "but I have to do this. I can't let my father's memory be tainted by lies." Elena looked down, swirling the coffee in her cup. The weight of uncertainty hung palpably between them, a tether that both connected and separated them in this moment of truth. Finally, Elena nodded. "Okay, but you have to promise me that we'll take this slow. If we're going to look into this, we need a plan." Relief washed over Maria. She had her ally. "Of course, I have some leads already, people I want to talk to." "And what about this text?" Elena asked, her tone shifting to concern. "The one that warned you?" "It just adds to the chaos," Maria said, her mind swirling with the implications of that message. "But I can't let fear dictate my actions. If anything, it pushes me further." The conversation shifted from cautious reveals to strategic conversations. Maria unfolded her thoughts about the case filing she reviewed earlier. Plan after plan developed, but as her doubts crept back in, they battled against her determination. Maria detailed the police reports filled with discrepancies. Eyewitness accounts that led to more questions than answers filled her thoughts. "I need to find out who these witnesses are. There must be something more behind their statements." Elena leaned forward, her expression earnest. "Then let's start with those names. Who can we trust?" Maria felt a jolt of realization. Trust was a fragile thing, especially in the face of betrayal. It's not just about trust, it's about loyalty, a currency I'm beginning to question. Over the next hour, they transformed the cafe table into a makeshift war room, strategizing how to approach those who could lead them to answers. Each name they discussed unfurled a layer of the web that held Maria's past captive. She felt anticipation surge within her as she jotted down notes, an artist documenting a once blank canvas. Was she finally sculpting her truth into something tangible? Yet that unsettling text remained a cloud hanging overhead. "What if it's a threat?" Maria probed, voicing her misgivings. "What if someone knows what I'm planning?" Elena's gaze met hers with fierce determination. "Then we must be smarter than them. We'll take every precaution." The resolve that settled over Maria was invigorating. She felt less alone now that Elena was by her side, like a lighthouse guiding her through stormy seas. But there was still so much to lose. As they departed from the cafe, Maria's phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with a new message from the unknown sender. "You can't escape past demons. They will find you." The thrill of the hunt rose in Maria once more, entwined with the cold dread that gripped her. The truth she sought was just out of reach, intertwined with the shadows of her family's legacy. This was no longer just a fight for her father's honor. It had morphed into a battle for her own identity, and the stakes were climbing higher. Maria's mind whirled as she contemplated her next steps. Would she be ready to face the consequences of her actions? As she took a deep breath, something began to unravel from the depths of her mind. A strategy materializing, a needed confrontation she could feel creeping nearer. Would her father's hidden past finally become a beacon for her future, or a haunting specter? The answer hung tantalizingly close, igniting within her a daring flame. There was no turning back now. She was ready for whatever lay ahead. And soon, Maria would either be standing in the light of truth or engulfed in the dark shadows of betrayal. Maria's feet moved with purpose, the concrete beneath her suddenly feeling more like a path to destiny rather than a mundane sidewalk. The sun had dipped lower, casting long shadows that mirrored the tension coiling in her gut. She could hear Elena's reassuring voice behind her, urging her to stay focused, but it was her own resolve that propelled her forward. She was on the verge of something monumental, driven equally by desperation and determination. The first name on her list was Reverend Jenkins, a former neighbor who had witnessed the events surrounding her father's conviction. She and Elena had decided to pay him a visit. His memory might still hold the key that would unlock a deeper truth. As they approached the small, ivy-covered church, Maria's heart raced. Every step felt like a confrontation with her past, a past she had shrouded in layers of denial and grief. Elena took the lead, introducing them with a calm confidence that Maria envied. Standing in the cool shade of the church's entrance, she felt an ocean of uncertainty sweep over her. What if Reverend Jenkins didn't remember? Or worse, what if he did but was unwilling to share? "Maria," Elena whispered, pulling her back from her spiral of doubts. "Remember, we're not here to intimidate. We need to find out whether he is an ally in this. Keep it light. Encourage him to talk." Taking a deep breath, Maria nodded. As they stepped inside, the smell of old wood and incense drifted around them, each breath reminding her of how the church had once been a refuge for her family. Reverend Jenkins, though older and frailer than she remembered, greeted them with a warm smile. "What brings you two here today?" His voice was rich, with an underlying warmth that she found oddly comforting amid the storm swirling inside her. Maria introduced herself, and as she spoke, the stories from their past spilled out, mingling with the memories she had long sought to bury. Yet, as she navigated through pleasantries and reminisced about her childhood, she felt a flicker of frustration. Deep within her, the truth waited impatiently, wrapped in layers of pleasantry. "Reverend, I haven't been honest," she finally admitted, her voice steadying. "I need to understand more about what happened that night, my father's trial. Are there any details you remember that could help?" His expression shifted, brows knitting together. "It's a heavy topic, Maria. History can be brutal. But I'm afraid." She leaned in, urgency propelling her forward. "Please, I need to know. What did you see?" And then the room around them seemed to settle, as if the air itself recognized the gravity of her request. He hesitated, the gears of memory turning, and Maria could sense the hesitation. Was it from sadness? Or was there something darker? "Your father was a good man," he began slowly. "But I remember things, strange things. There were whispers afterwards. Whispers that your father was involved in something bigger than anyone knew." Fear pulsed through Maria, igniting her earlier dread like a match to kindling. But, alongside it, she felt an unexpected spark of determination. "What do you mean?" she pressed, her breath hitching. "What kind of involvement?" As the Reverend spoke, Maria struggled to process the implications. The implications pointed not just to her father's innocence, but possibly to a network of influence that may have laid a trap for him. Elena watched closely, her eyes narrowing with concern. Maria noted the subtle shifts in her friend's posture, each observation feeding the fire of shared determination growing inside her. Suddenly, a sharp noise from outside broke her concentration, a deafening crash that shattered the conversation and brought a piercing sense of foreboding into the room. Maria felt herself jerk back, the atmosphere thickening with tension. Had someone followed her? Had the shadows of her father's past finally come to haunt her? She locked eyes with Elena, who nodded slightly, an unspoken agreement to face whatever was about to converge upon them together. They were no longer mere seekers of truth. They were entangled in something far larger, a reckoning that was reaching out to reclaim its past. And in that moment, a flicker of fury ignited within Maria. It was time to confront whatever had been lurking in the darkness, demanding to be seen. As they stepped back outside, ready to uncover the source of the disturbance, a chilling realization struck her. Every thread they'd begun to unravel would reveal not just the truth about her father, but the ghosts that had haunted her family. And the confrontation with those ghosts was approaching faster than she could have imagined. Maria stood firm, ready to forge ahead into the looming confrontation that awaited just beyond her grasp. Maria's heart raced as she and Elena stepped outside, the fading sunlight illuminating the uncertainty pulsating in her chest. The crash had echoed ominously, leaving a void of disquiet that she could feel crawling beneath her skin. She sought the origin of the disturbance. The side street lay shrouded in shadows that danced with each flicker of the dying light. For a moment she felt utterly unmoored, teetering on the precipice of a truth she was desperate to uncover. "Stay alert," Elena murmured, her eyes scanning the area like a hawk searching for prey. That reminder snapped Maria back into focus. She glanced around, every sound amplified in the tense air. Their previous conversation with Reverend Jenkins felt like a whispered promise, a thread leading them deeper into the maze of her father's legacy. That truth, whatever form it took, was no longer just a wisp of hope. It was demanding to be acknowledged. The source of the noise revealed itself, a vehicle, sleek and dark, its engine thrumming menacingly as it coasted by. Maria squinted at the tinted windows, suspicion clawing at her stomach. The figure inside appeared too still, unyielding. Was this person connected to the shadows of her father's past? The instinct to retreat warred with a need to confront the fear that gripped her. "Should we—" Elena began, her voice taut with concern, but Maria cut her off. "No," she said firm, an unexpected determination coloring her tone. "We have to find out who they are. We're not running anymore." The words surprised her. A spark ignited, something raw and fierce that began to shift the gears in her mind. She was tired of allowing others to dictate her narrative, tired of hiding behind shadows. Her father had fought for his innocence, and now it was her turn to take the reins, no matter how daunting that might feel. Together, they boldly approached the vehicle, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. As they drew closer, the figure inside shifted slightly, revealing a face Maria struggled to place. Something about the angle made her heart skip. It was a familiar face, shrouded in fragments of memory, distorted by years of heartbreak and abandonment. "Is that—" Elena's voice trailed off, uncertainty lacing her tone. The figure exited the car, and Maria's breath hitched. It was Danny, her father's old friend, someone she had not seen since that fateful night. The years had aged him, but could not erase the stubs of their shared history. "Maria," he said hesitantly, almost apologetically, "I need to talk to you." "Talk?" Maria snapped back, each word dripping with both disbelief and a simmering anger. "You want to talk? You disappeared when we needed you the most." Danny flinched at her accusation, eyes wide with a mix of regret and fear. "I had to protect you, protect your family." Maria's chest constricted, a swell of emotion threatening to overwhelm her. The betrayal tasted bitter on her tongue, yet buried deep was a flicker of curiosity. Had he known something all along? And if so, what else was he concealing? "Why now?" she pressed, her voice steadying as she crossed her arms, determination hardening her resolve. "Why come back after all this time?" Danny hesitated, the weight of secrets ready to spill from his lips. His gaze darted toward Elena, searching for an ally. Revealing himself as a potential source of information ignited a shake of disbelief inside Maria. She wanted to demand answers, to grab him by the collar and force the truth out. Instead, she stood there tiptoeing between anger and the undeniable need to know what lay behind his reappearance. "We're all in danger, Maria. It's about your father. It's bigger than you think." The answer emerged as a lifeline, but also a double-edged sword. The implications echoed in her mind like a siren's call, pulling her into a maelstrom she had only begun to confront. Before she could respond, the vehicle roared back to life, thoughts tumbling over one another as she faced this blast from her past. "Get in," Danny urged, anxiety flickering in his eyes. "We need to get somewhere safe. There's much you don't know." The invitation hung heavy in the air, and Maria felt the gravity of her choices converge. Could she trust him? Should she pursue the answers he promised, despite the turmoil churning inside her? Her heart pounded as she contemplated the direction of her life, where this confrontation could lead. Was she ready to dive deeper into a world she had never truly understood? With a steely resolve solidifying around her, Maria stepped forward, her next move setting the stage for an encounter with the truth that had eluded her for far too long. As she slid into the car beside Banny, the air thickened with anticipation. She sensed this was a turning point. The moment of revelation approached like a storm on the horizon. The personal collision with the past was beginning now, and shadows were about to come to light. The engine roared harshly as the car pulled away, swallowing them in a cocoon of darkness and uncertainty. Maria felt the weight of the past pressing down on her as she sat stiffly, the shadows of doubt swirling in the confined space. Danny's presence was both familiar and unnerving, evoking memories of a time when trust came easy, before betrayal rippled through her life. "Where are we going?" she demanded, her voice sharper than intended. She needed to establish control, to reclaim the narrative before it spiraled beyond her reach. "To a place where we can talk without being overheard," Danny replied, his tone barely masking the urgency. He navigated the streets deftly, but Maria's mind raced faster than the vehicle. Questions flared like wildfire, each one igniting a deeper disturbance. "What danger? What do you know about my father?" The barrage of inquiries felt like a dam burst, revealing tributaries of emotion she had kept restrained. Danny's grip tightened on the steering wheel, and he cast a sidelong glance, apprehension etched on his features. "Maria, your father was involved in something dangerous. There are people who want to silence the past." Silence pushed against the car's interior, an oppressive presence as Maria absorbed his words. Her father was a shadow she had longed to clear, an enigma wrapped in layers of pain. And here was Danny, unearthing pieces of a puzzle she had only begun piecing together. "How do you know all this?" she pressed, her tone softening slightly as curiosity began to chip away at her anger. "You vanished when it all fell apart. Why now?" "The moment I realized the depth of this threat, I tried to reach out," he said, remorse coloring his voice. "But you know how it is with loyalty. We all thought it was better to keep you safe away from the truth." Safe. The word hung between them, heavy with irony, as she reflected on the loss of her childhood bliss in exchange for a manufactured sense of security. Anger flared anew. Safe from what? The truth? If I'd known sooner, maybe I could have done something. Her frustration fueled a resolve that felt electric. Maybe she had been kept in the dark for too long, but the shadows could no longer obscure her path. "This isn't just about your father," Danny's tone turned serious. "It's about you. You're marked, Maria. The moment you started asking questions, you drew their attention." They approached a ramshackle building, the paint peeling and windows boarded up, a relic of past glories. "We'll discuss this inside," Danny said, parking hastily. Intrigued but wary, Maria uncurled from her seat, stepping onto the cracked pavement. She felt exposed, the chill of the night seeping into her skin, amplifying her senses. Alongside Elena, who remained silently vigilant behind her, Maria pushed through the door, her heart a relentless drumbeat echoing in her chest. Inside, the air was thick with the stale scent of neglect, an unsettling reminder of what had been lost. As Danny flicked on a dim light, shadows danced ominously on the walls, reminding Maria that darkness was not just a physical void, but a specter she needed to confront. "Sit," Danny instructed, motioning to a rickety table. "We need to go through everything. I'll share what I know, but you have to promise not to dismiss this. It's about reviewing the past to understand the present." The transaction felt monumental. Sitting across from Danny tethered them to shared histories, yet divergent futures. Inside, Maria wrestled with the urge to push him harder, to shake out every thread of information, yet equally she felt the need to soften under the weight of her emotions. "Why should I trust you, Danny? You disappeared." Hurt laced her words, exposing the raw edges of her vulnerability. "Because I'm here now," he answered, his eyes earnest. "This time I won't run away." A flicker of resolve ignited within her. Trust papers the ground of change, neither naive nor foolish, but an exchange that could either forge a path forward or lead to disaster. As Danny began sharing stories intertwining her father's past with looming threats, the past morphed into a reality she was unprepared for. Each revelation felt like a step deeper into a minefield, and with each discovery she sensed the latent strength within herself grow. But the true test lay ahead. Could she untangle herself from the web of lies that had ensnared her, as well as confront the dangerously hidden forces that sought to shatter the fragile peace she desired? "Maria," Danny leaned forward, a look of urgency igniting the air with tension. "There's something else. They're already coming for you." The words hung heavily, a stark contrast that demanded action, propelling her towards an uncertain yet inevitable confrontation. The night was just beginning, the stakes rising like smoke in the night sky. Was she ready to face the truth about her father, and what did that reveal about herself? The dim light flickered above them, casting restless shadows that churned across the walls, mirroring the storms within Maria's mind. Danny's urgency pressed down on her like the stale air thickening around them. She had anticipated crisis, but this revelation about her father, her life, felt like a tipping point, the edge of a cliff from which she might fall into an unknown abyss. "Coming for me?" Her voice trembled despite her effort to maintain authority. "What does that even mean?" Danny studied her with a mixture of concern and determination. "It means you're not just a spectator, Maria. You're a player in this game, whether you want to be or not. The moment you questioned your father's past, you drew lines in the sand. They see you as a threat, and threats must be neutralized." Her pulse quickened. The weight of his words pressed against her, urging her to grasp the gravity of her situation. The life she had lived with half measures, shrouded in comfort and ignorance, seemed a world away from this moment. She felt the flicker of anger resurface, mixed with fear, and an undeniable spark of profound discontent. "What do I do?" she asked, the question laced with desperation and newfound resolve. How could she find the courage buried within her when the world outside her childhood cocoon had spiraled into chaos? Danny leaned closer, his voice low and steady. "Knowledge is power. We have to delve into everything your father was involved in. Only by understanding his past can we protect you from it. You have to confront it, Maria." Confront it? The concept filled her with both dread and a peculiar sense of liberation. For years, her life revolved around half-formed truths and obscured realities. But now, in this claustrophobic room, faced with the potential for danger and armed with bits of information that Danny slowly began to unfold, she felt an ember of something fierce building up inside her. "Tell me everything," she commanded, forcing her fear into the background. It was time to reshape her narrative. No longer would she be merely a victim of circumstance. "There are two factions. Your father made enemies and allies alike," Danny explained, referencing a world of past alliances and betrayals. "They think you can lead them to something he buried. They don't just want to silence you, they want to control what you know. It's bigger than you or me." Unfurling a tattered map from his pocket, Danny spread it on the table. The contours marked in faded ink revealed locations with ominous names. In that moment, her past transformed into something tangible, something that could be addressed. She realized she had a choice, to cower or to act. "Each mark represents a piece of your father's life. We need to start here." He pointed to a location labeled the warehouse. Maria's breath hitched. It was an anchor to her childhood memories, a place she had avoided speaking about because of the unsettling feelings it invoked. "What happens if I go there? If you find what he hid, you may uncover not only his secrets, but your own, about who you are and what you're capable of." That last statement struck deeply, resonating with a longing she had yet to articulate fully. Could she unlock a part of herself that had been dormant, waiting in the shadows of her life? The idea was tantalizing and terrifying. "I will go," she declared, her voice steadying with each word. The thrill of the unknown mixed with a driving need to reclaim her identity took precedence. "I'll face whatever is there." Danny nodded, his expression one of both pride and concern. "You need to be aware of what you might find. You can't unlearn the truths that might surface, but you will also discover who you are beneath the layers of hurt." As they folded the map and prepared to leave the decrepit building, a newfound determination radiated within Maria. This was no longer just about her father. It was about her reclaiming power over what had once felt like a stream of darkness. She would step into the light, ready to confront her past, ready to fight for her future. Just as they reached the door, a loud bang echoed through the night, sending adrenaline coursing through her veins. The instinct to run tugged at her, but deep within, a steely resolve took hold. "We need to move now," Danny urged, urgency folding back into his voice. "Who's there?" Maria demanded, inching toward the door. Danny's face hardened as he instinctively shielded her with his body. "I'm not sure, but we can't stay. It's time to decide what you are made of, Maria." The weight of that decision, teetering on the precipice of danger, hung heavily as they stepped outside. In that moment, she realized she could no longer afford to merely react. This was her moment to redefine everything. And as they moved hastily away from the building, the promise of confrontation loomed ever closer. She knew the next step would reveal not only the threats against her, but also the formidable power she had yet to uncover within herself. Would the truth she unearthed become a catalyst for her survival, or would it bind her to the very shadows she sought to escape? The adrenaline coursed through Maria's veins as she and Danny sprinted away from the dilapidated building. The urgency in the air thickened, each echoing footstep pounding against her conscience, urging her forward faster. She could feel her heart racing, not just from fear, but from the intoxicating thrill of embracing her destiny. "Where are we going?" she panted, glancing back toward the looming shadows that had become her past. "To the warehouse," Danny replied breathlessly, his eyes scanning the darkened street for any sign of danger. "We need to get there before they catch up." Maria felt empowered with each step, the resolve to take back her narrative overwhelming the shadows that stalked her. This moment was transformative. The once distant whispers of her family's legacy had now climbed into imperative action. She wasn't just facing echoes of her father's past, she was forging her future. As they turned a corner, the imposing figure of the warehouse loomed ahead of them, bathed in the light of a solitary street lamp. Gone were the days of avoiding the memories tied to its existence. Today, it was a stronghold of her newfound ambition. "I had my doubts about coming here," Danny said, his voice lowered as they approached the heavy metal door. "But this is where we uncover everything." "Then we do it together," Maria declared. This was no longer just about her father. It was about her reclaiming the parts of herself she had buried under family loyalty and fear. Danny nodded, and they pushed through the door, entering the chill of the warehouse. The air was thick with the must of neglect, but within the dark corners she could sense the remnants of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Flicking on the flashlights they had brought, the beams danced over dusty crates and rusted equipment, remnants of a time long abandoned. "Over here," Danny beckoned, his tone a mix of excitement and caution as he unearthed a tarnished chest hidden beneath shelving. Maria's pulse quickened at the sight of it. This could very well hold the pivotal pieces to her father's story, the legacy that needed reclaiming. As she knelt beside Danny, the weight of possibility hung in the air. With a practiced motion, he opened the chest, revealing bundles of fading documents, photographs, and a collection of videos. Each item echoed with the tales of lives entwined with her father's. This could all point to what truly happened," Danny said, his voice almost reverent as he rifled through the material. Maria's heart raced as she grasped a faded photograph of her father with a group of men she didn't recognize. They looked serious, focused, but no comfort flickered in her direction. It was tinged with sinister undertones. She could practically hear the murmurs of caution ringing in her ears. As she leafed through the pages, snippets began to unfold. Names, locations, and meetings, hinting at alliances forged in the shadows. Then a video cassette caught her attention. "Hold on," she whispered, squinting at the label. "My father, speaking about something he referred to as the deal." "Play it," Danny urged, his eyes wide with intrigue. Maria felt a shiver race down her spine as they set up an old view screen they'd found nearby. The moment the tape flickered to life, shadows of her father filled the frame. His voice was steady, passionate, recounting elements of loyalty and betrayal, a vision that felt more monumental than ever as secrets bled onto the screen. But then the images shifted, a confrontation between her father and others from the photograph. Tension seeped through the grainy footage. Maria felt an eerie familiarity in the mounting dread. The past was not finished with her. "I had no choice," she heard her father say, frustration evident. "They're pushing for total control. If I don't play along, the devastation will be relentless. There will be blood." The words sent adrenaline coursing through Maria as understanding deepened. This wasn't just about innocence. It was about survival. As layers of her father's life flooded to the surface, realization dawned mercilessly. She had inherited a legacy of power, choice, and fear that she couldn't ignore. "What are we looking at, Maria?" Danny interjected, pulling her back from the whirlwind of revelations. "This may change everything." "Exactly," Maria whispered, sparked by clarity. "It's a warning. My father understood the stakes, and now I need to carry that understanding into the present." A sudden noise startled them, a creaking floorboard, followed by the scuffle of footsteps echoing through the vast emptiness of the warehouse. The thrill of discovery collided sharply with the reality of danger. It was time for action. "Hide," she hissed, squeezing in behind some battered crates with Danny. The darkness embraced them as they held their breath, adrenaline heightening every sense. The door swung open, revealing two men clad in dark clothing, the glint of weapons reflecting the subdued light. Maria's heart raced. Had they already come for her? "We need to find the girl," one of them growled, scanning the space. "We know she's here." Fear mingled with fury within Maria. She was not going to let her past dictate her present any longer. This was her moment to confront not just the shadows of her father's legacy, but also the threats that bound her to a life she was ready to escape. With a renewed strength, Maria whispered to Danny, "We need to get back toward the front exit." They moved stealthily, undetected amidst the shadows, relying on instinct. She felt vitality surging through her. The thrill of action replaced fear with purpose. They ducked and weaved through the concealed areas utilized in her father's past dealings, her past and present colliding in breathtaking ways. Finally, they reached a small side door that could lead them to safety. With one last glance around, Maria pushed through the opening, the hustle of escape energizing her resolve. Once outside, the cool night air filled her lungs, igniting her spirit. The world beckoned before her, filled with uncertainty, yet palpable opportunity. This was her fight now. Every fear she felt only strengthened her desire to understand her legacy and confront her demons. "We have to report this," Danny urged, excitement palpable as they made their way toward a distant safety. "No," she countered, determination hard as steel. "This is my truth to uncover. I'm not finished yet." Within her grew a solid confidence, the kind of belief born from acknowledging hardship and deciding to stand tall. The shadows may have chased her, but she was no longer an unwilling participant in her narrative. As dawn broke on the horizon, sweeping a warm glow over the path ahead, Maria felt reborn, a woman tethered not just to the past, but poised to conquer the future she so desperately craved. This was her moment of transformation, and she embraced it wholeheartedly. She would dig deeper, confront the dangers head-on, and ultimately emerge victorious in redefining her legacy. Not as the Mafia boss she was born into, but as the empowered woman she chose to become. "Let's go, Danny," she said, resolute. "It's time to unleash the truth." The adventure ahead pulsed with potential, each heartbeat a reminder of what she had achieved so far and what was still left to conquer. It was her life, her story, and she would shape it on her own terms. With that, she stepped into the new dawn, ready to dive into the depths of her legacy, uncovering the truth that awaited in the shadows. Her achievement was no longer just a goal. It was the promise of a future free from fear, armed with the empowerment of knowledge and truth. Now, as the sun rose, so too did her fierce resolve. A declaration to all. She was Maria Rossi, and the shadows would not define her. And so her journey continued, illuminated by the fire of personal fulfillment and an unwavering commitment to uncover every last truth. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.